Alright guys, sorry I couldn't be there today, but I'm going to leave some notes here on solving quadratics by taking the square root. So if you'll watch this video and then go through the examples, and then you're going to do some practice at the end. So remember, when we're solving a quadratic, we're looking for the x-intercepts. So we're trying to solve for x. So I've taught you a couple of different methods. You can solve by graphing, you can solve by factoring, and so another method that you can use is solving by taking the square root. So let's go ahead and start with example 1. So it says x squared equals 25. So what we're trying to do here is we're going to try to solve for x. So we've talked about how when you, the opposite of squaring a number is taking the square root. So what we're going to do here is to get the x by itself, we're going to take the square root of both sides. So that'll give us the x equals, instead of x squared. And so the square root of 25, 25 is a perfect square, so the square root of 25 is 5. But we've talked about how you have two answers here, not just positive 5, but you also have negative 5. So we can say the correct answer here is plus or minus 5, meaning your x-intercepts here are 5, 0, and you also have negative 5, 0. So those would be your two x-intercepts. All right, let's try number 2 here. All right, example 2, you've got 7x squared equals 21. So the first step here is going to be to get the x squared by itself. So right now it's being multiplied by 7. So the opposite of multiplying x squared by 7 would be to divide both sides by 7. So those 7's cancel, so we get x squared equals 21 divided by 7 is 3. All right, so now again we want to take the square root of both sides to get the x by itself. So we have x equals. All right, and we can either leave our answer as plus or minus the square root of 3, or we can actually get a decimal. So in your calculator, you would have to hit the square root button and take the square root of 3 and see exactly what that correct answer would be. Okay, so when you go to your calculator, if you go to the calculate screen, remember you'll press in Control X squared to get your square root button. And if you take the square root of 3, I got 1.73205. So I'll round it to the nearest hundredths place. So don't forget it's plus or minus 1.73. So those would be your two answers. Positive 1.73 and negative 1.73. So those would be your x-intercepts. All right, example 3. So we're going to try to solve for p. So it says p squared plus 5 equals 21. So again, the first step is to get the p squared by itself. So it's like you're solving an equation. So the opposite of adding 5 would be to subtract 5. So you're going to minus 5 to both sides first. Those cancel. Bring down your p squared equals 21 minus 5 is 16. All right, then again, to get the p by itself, you're going to take the square root of both sides. So p equals. So, and then the square root of 16, 16 is a perfect square. So the square root of 16 is 4, because 4 times 4 is 16, or also negative 4. So we'll say plus or minus 4. And again, those would be your x-intercepts. Again, you could write your answers as 4, 0 and negative 4, 0. All right. On to the back. And example 4. Okay, so again, we want to solve for m. So it says 2m squared plus 10 equals 210. So we want to get the m squared by itself. So the first thing, we always do the opposite of adding or subtracting first. So the opposite of adding 10 would be subtracting 10. Those 10s cancel. We're going to bring down the 2m squared. 210 minus 10 would be 200. Now the next step to get the m squared by itself would be do the opposite of multiplying by 2. So we're going to divide both sides by 2. Those cancel. Gives us m squared equals 200 divided by 2 is 100. Now to get the m by itself, again, the opposite of squaring a number is taking the square root. So we're going to take the square root of both sides. And 100 is a perfect square because 10 times 10 is 100. So the square root of 100 is 10. But again, don't forget it's plus or minus. So you would have two answers there, positive 10 and negative 10. All right, example 5. 5r squared minus 7 equals 488. So again, we're going to solve for r squared first. So that means we're trying to get the r squared by itself. So we're going to do the opposite of adding or subtracting. So the opposite of subtracting 7 would be to add 7. Those cancel, so you bring down your 5r squared. And then if you do 488 plus 7, that would be 495. And again, we have multiplication, so the opposite of multiplying by 5 would be dividing by 5. Those cancel, get the r squared equals 495 divided by 5 is 99. All right, so again, we're going to get the r by itself, so we're going to take the square root of both sides. And if you do the square root of 99, okay, that's not a perfect square, so we can type that in our calculator, and we'll get a decimal. So the square root of 99 is, I got 9.94987. So again, it's going to be plus or minus 9 point, I'll round it to the nearest hundredths, so that'd be 9.95. So correct answer there would be positive 9.95 and negative 9.95. So again, those are your x-intercepts, or your roots, or your zeros. All right, so last example here. Example 6. So we got 2k squared minus 2 equals 144. So again, to get the k squared by itself, we're going to do the opposite of subtracting 2. So we're going to add 2 to both sides. Those cancel. Bring down your 2k squared. 144 plus 2 is 146. And then we do the opposite of multiplying by 2, so we're going to divide both sides by 2, which gives us k squared equals, all right, 146 divided by 2 is going to be 73. And last step would be to take the square root of both sides. 73 is not a perfect square, so to get the square root, we can type it in our calculators. And the square root of 73 is going to be a decimal, which I get 8.544. So again, don't forget, it's always plus or minus. When you take the square root of a number, you always get a positive square root and a negative square root. So I'll say 8.544. So those would be your two answers, positive 8.544 and negative 8.544. All right, so that's how you solve by using the square root method. So now are some examples for you to try on your own. If you'll keep this notes page, and we will tape it in our journals when I get back on Wednesday. All right.